Refer back to this because I have that list of questions that I emailed you on the phone. Mm-hmm. I'm not checking my Instagram while we're talking, so don't worry about that.
Yeah. Good.
Okay, so Bobby, first of all, man, you dodge boats like nobody else.
Yeah, I can't believe I almost got nailed by one of those today. One of the three that tried to run us over today.
That was gnarly.
Yeah.
It's funny because I have a buddy of mine in Santa Cruz who I dive with, just went to Sea Cortez. Mm-hmm. And he showed a video clip. He had a GoPro on his mask, and he was just messing around, getting scallops in like 10 feet of water, looked here, no boat, went down, came up, looked here, and this ponga was, and I'm like, that never happens. And then today, it happened to us.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely was the first one, like I said, never happens. And then it kind of, two more boats totally didn't see us as they got too close. And so when something happens once, you kind of can chalk it up to unfortunate. But as soon as something happens more than once in any small amount of time, it's like, all right, we got a problem. So
it's a sign.
Yeah, I'll probably have to double. I mean, I've been going to that spot for a decade or two.
Really?
Never that far out, except for the last decade. But I mean, 100 times been out there. I've never had anything like that. I've had a few guys not see us till the last minute.
Yeah.
Kind of like the third boat that almost ran us over.
Yeah.
But to have it, to have all three, and that first one being so bad.
Yeah.
It was. It's pretty eye-opening.
Yeah.
Always something new.
No doubt, huh?
Always something
changing conditions is not just the conditions, like the natural stuff, it's the people stuff too. It's like, who knew this boat was flying by, But give us some background, man. Like, we're here in Napili, like, describe your setup. What town are we in? Everything about it, man.
So,
give us that
the best place on earth. It's hard to beat. Napili, Ahapua'a, the island is split up in these different Ahapua'as. Mm-hmm. Napili, Kahana, Kapalua are all around us. Those are the way that the Hawaiians split up the land back in the old days. And still kind of respecting the culture in that way. And so raised in the Napili, Ahapua'a, right now we're in Kahana, right next to it. And my dad was a fisherman and a hunter before me, and a major surfer.
Really?
And he actually surfed with Jerry Lopez regularly back in the early 70s.
In the heyday.
The heyday before you could be the biggest name and you weren't getting paid at all. My dad was homeless and one of the best surfers around.
Wow.
And homeless for a little while. Lived in Lahaina town, which is our main town, just 15 minutes south of us. And he lived in the I think it was Ocean House restaurant. He slept underneath the cash register. And then this must have been 73, 70-ish.
That's sweet.
And they caught him one morning sleeping under the cash register. He would throw his surfboard out and jump off the back into the water, paddle out to the surf break, and that's how he start his day. And they caught him finally. And they gave him a job. So that was his first job for 2 years.
Dude.
Now, it might have been more than two, I'm not sure.
You've heard that book, Barbarian Days?
I'm not sure. I know about it.
Because there's a story, and this guy, he's been all over the world. He's a San Francisco, like, old school legend surfer, probably your father's age, or that era. But anyway, he tells a story. I remember the book now of, like, coming to Lahaina, sleeping in their car, like, interacting with other locals. I'm just wondering if that was part of that swirling story. Who knows?
You never know, man.
Yeah, that's sweet.
There's a lot of that stuff's lost. I mean, nowadays, all this technology, all this, everything's being recorded. But it was crazier back then. I mean, you had just, everything's, safer now.
Yeah.
What crazy means now is, kids were doing nuts stuff, no helmets, getting themselves killed left and right, back in the old days. And so, he would tell stories, he's still around, but he would tell stories, where he would just kind of a side note. Oh yeah, I flipped that van. That's how I got rid of that one. I was like, what do you mean? Like,
just in passing.
Yeah, I went off a ditch. Landed on the roof. Like, wait, what? And I don't know, I don't even know if it's all, what's real and what's not.
Yeah.
Guy's a character.
Born and bred here then.
Yeah, it's, I'll add, it kind of leads into who I am for sure. My dad worked there for a while, and then the place blew up, propane explosion, when he was in it.
What?
Yeah, sent 6 guys to the hospital, 1 guy critical. Nobody died, and it's quite a story. But anyways, he was the first one out the front door, kind of with fire behind him, sort of thing. And just kind of burst the door off the hinges with his ankle. Permanently messed up his ankle, kind of bow-legged a little to the day, messed up his surfing career.
Wow.
This must have been, he was there for a while actually, so it must have been, that must have been mid-'80s, early 80s. And he got a settlement. The big thing about the story is he every bit of hair was gone off of him. He reached down,
No way.
semi-busy Front Street morning, and everybody looking at him, standing in the middle of the street, covered in ashes, reached down to his ankle, because the only thing hurt was his ankle. He reached down to wipe the black ashes off his ankle, and he said all his skin came off with it.
Oh,
Yeah,
gnarly.
like that. Yeah, like some sort of war movie.
Ooh.
And so he got a settlement for that, which he should have probably done things differently. But he got a settlement, which paid for the house, which was not very expensive in the early 80s.
Yeah.
Paid for the house that I grew up in, and my mom still lives at in Napili. So wasn't for that whole thing, everything from the cash register to the job to the explosion to the house, which then they had me and raised me in it, only child. So probably wouldn't be here, if it wasn't for all those chain of events. So
Crazy, man.
definitely quite a interesting upbringing. Dad being that sort of local legend,
Right.
and became a huge fisherman instead of surfer after that. And so I grew up with him mostly being a fisherman, just kind of knowing he was a surfer, but really being around a lot of fish, holding up his fish, pulling lobsters out of the lobster net in my front yard. He'd lay lobster nets back, not quite legal exactly the same anymore, but, learned how to do that stuff, and then eventually helped him get lobsters out of the, go lay the nets and stuff. And I was 4 years old, 5 years old.
Oh, cool.
So, before I can remember, we were diving,
Wow.
holding breath, popping the ears.
Yeah. So you had an early connection with the ocean that you maintain through till today. I mean,
yeah,
cool.
The way I've described it, I don't know. It's not. Try not to. It's not like this too cocky or anything like that. It's just trying to describe it what it is. Just feeling like being raised outside, as opposed to being like an indoor cat or an outdoor cat. Like, my job now, we can get to, eventually here is teaching people how to spearfish, exposing them to the ocean and of course, awareness of sustainability and the freediving world, which is like the most amazing, most unknown world out there right now. And, doing that, I've been around, taught Olympic swimmers, I've taught so many lifeguards and competitive level, stand-up paddleboarders, surfers, all that stuff. And you can see if you weren't raised in the water, you don't move the same. It's not the same. I mean, there's no disrespect at all.
Sure,
if anything, tons of respect for people stepping out and getting themselves out there. But it definitely feels
it's
like
just a fact.
Yeah.
You
it's like learning a language when you weren't raised in that language.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
That's how it feels like.
Yeah, it's not a second nature, because you weren't immersed in it, by directly like you were. I mean, that's amazing. I mean, this stretch of coast, I mean, the next, from where we are in Napili, 10, 15 miles that way, you must have dove, seen, swam, been in the water, in like every probably nook and cranny and little spot. Like, that's cool. That local knowledge and just connection you have is really quite special,
Yeah, no, it feels good. I try to not let my identity wrap fully in that because of just beliefs and wanting to think you're more than the place you're from. But that is still huge.
Yeah.
And I don't want to, and I want a part of my identity, at least maybe not who I am or my value to come from it, but my how I see myself and how I see the world, my worldviews and whatnot, come from that past. And we all have that. But mine is like many others, but mine is just very dramatic. It's very much, no one knows the reef out here better than me. Nobody, I spilled blood on, mountain biking with my friends in this dirt, since I was a little kid. So that small town feel. I think a lot of small town
Yeah.
people, or a lot of people who really made use of their environment where they were raised, have a similar feel
Yeah.
of like, there's nowhere else
Yeah.
you could ever go that you can say this is where you spilled your
Yeah.
blood as a kid, you
Yeah.
know, and you know, it's forever kind of a part of who you are.
Yeah, I love that for, so there's like the familiarity on land, like you could drive down the street, you know that house, and you used to party in this house and all that stuff. But there's like familiarity underwater too.
Right.
It's like today when we were out, you're like, hey, there's a hole here where there's gonna be a fish, and you know there wasn't, but you just know, and you know exactly how to get there. And there's like this familiarity, and I have the same thing like in Santa Cruz. There's like this reef, and it's all kelp. You're like, what? That's like me. I'm following you. I'm like, dude, where? Like I have no frame of reference where we're at because it's fresh water. I have no idea.
Yeah.
You're like, dude, there it is, down. And there's like these underhangs where I am. It's the same thing. It's like this little slice of home.
Yeah.
You know, hey, who's in here today? And you know where to go, and it's just neat. You just don't wake up and go do that and find that familiarity, and you know, it's like it's just neat to have the familiarity underwater.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I don't know if whatever that's worth. I dig it for my own self, and I think you do too.
It's huge, and that's the best thing I would say probably of it being my job is, you know, being out there all the time, familiarizing yourself, you know, just even more so, and just fully, you know, with all those nooks and crannies, all those little things, just that motivation. Sometimes you can make a decision ahead of time because motivation's not always there to get up in the morning to get out there. So you make a smart decision ahead of time to say, hey, you know what, I'm gonna, you know, whatever it is for you. But for me, it was, I'm gonna do this for my job, you know, and I'm gonna take that leap. You know, I'm gonna get paid nothing for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And struggle to make it. But this is what I believe, I think, is the best, you know, job for me. You know, I'm going to take people out here. So that, of course, then motivated me to be out there every day. So the place that I was already used to, I built off of that. You know, sure, when I started the business 8 years ago, I was used to everything. I could already say I was, you know, I had all this resume and stuff, but if I look at who I was 12 years ago compared to me to now, I was a kid, you know, at 24 or 25 years old who didn't know anything, you know, compared to what I feel like I am now, you know. So, being out there, you gotta get up.
Yeah,
you gotta get out
you
there.
can do it. Yeah,
You know, that's the hardest part.
Totally.
I think, for people. And
yeah, man,
so,
it is. So, do you remember? So, growing up as a kid, from the early days, you're fishing, touching lobster, doing everything. Do you remember the first fish you ever speared?
Oh man, I definitely remember the first game fish I ever speared.
Yeah.
I do not remember the first fish I ever speared because I was shooting.
Yeah.
Well, I was shooting everything,
right.
And I was eating. The only rule, my dad only gave me one rule: is if you shoot it, you eat it.
Yeah.
Period. So in Hawaii, you can pretty much eat everything.
Right.
We have the puffer fish. I knew not to shoot those.
Right.
So besides that, you can really eat everything and every part of everything. So I would shoot eels. I would shoot, you know, all sorts of little wrasse and things, and just wrap them in foil, put some butter on them, and put them on the grill and eat them.
Yeah.
And that's what I ate almost my entire life. I didn't catch more than 1.5 pound fish until I was probably 19 or 20.
Yeah.
It was all small fish. I never went out with. If you want to get good at spearfishing fast, you go out with guys who are really good. And I never did that.
That's true.
Yeah, my dad fished and hunted before I did, but you know, hardships in life, alcoholism, and partying too hard. Live fast, die young. He didn't die, but he lived fast. But it definitely caught up with him quickly. I was out there on my own.
Right.
And self-taught is a great, strong way to learn, but it's slow.
It's
and
slow.
So I didn't have all these kids now are showing all these fish that I was like, man, it took me 15 years.
Yeah. Especially with spearfishing, you know, because you're not out there with 10 other, like surfing, you could get inspiration, see what other guys are doing and stuff, but like spearfishing, you're by yourself. Yeah. Maybe you got a buddy, but you're doing your thing, and so you just do what you know to do, and you do it again and again and again.
Exactly.
You know?
And I just did that, and I kept it in the bays and really easy and small stuff. Kapalua Bay, I was in the bay doing small stuff, doing my thing. My dad had got me a nice gun though. I was 20 or so, and a nice wooden JBL long thing. And I went down and I told my buddy Kyle, I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna do one more loop around the bay. They were tired. They went back to Napili Bay and swam around the point and went over to Napili Bay right near it. And I did one drop in 15 feet of water and 3 16-pound omilu, or the bluefin trevally.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
16 pounds. I mean, I had the biggest jackfish I'd ever caught before that was maybe a pound. I had never really done well with jackfish, which is your standard thing you're looking for. I just never did the right stuff to get them. And 16 pounders, the first 2 shot right by my head. I swung my gun as fast as I could. The last one was going to run into the gun, so it had to turn. And I just took the shot, kind of wild shot, hit him mid-body. Didn't have a reel on my gun or anything, and the thing just fought like crazy.
No way.
I did not.
Hold on.
I 15 years of me dreaming of catching an ulua. You know, it wasn't. It's an omilu, but I thought it was ulua. I was, didn't know, and I just pulled that thing to me and bear hugged it.
Did you really?
Did not know if it had spines.
Didn't care.
Didn't care at all. Found out it had a spine. Got one spine on the top. Found that one, and literally. No regard. I didn't have a wetsuit. No regard for my knees or hands or arms.
Nothing.
Bear crawled and rolled that thing up the rocks over the sea urchins. I probably got cut up. Did not care.
That thing was coming home.
I threw it up. Threw it up on the rocks. Thing was flopping around. I threw it way up high where I knew it couldn't get down. As soon as it landed high enough to where I knew it couldn't get in the water again, threw my hands up. And I'm a pretty timid, humble, quiet kind of style. Yeah. And I threw my hands up in the air and screamed.
No way.
Everyone on the beach is staring at me, and I just like shaking, screaming.
Oh man!
Best fish I ever caught.
That's so cool.
And that's, I mean, it's not the biggest, not the most rare, not anything, but it's still my best catch.
Yeah, man. I love those.
The shaking, I never forget. I felt like I couldn't walk. I felt like I had to sit down.
The adrenaline. Oh, it's so magical, and it's funny because like you remember those, and every now and then it still happens. For some reason, I even just like. The other day, you met my son Kyle. He was out on his surfboard, just jigging for rockfish and lingcod, and it was real mellow. I was just diving around 15 feet of water. I had expectations. This is a nice day. You know? And sure enough, there's that crack I always go to, and it was this gigantic lingcod. And same thing, without even thinking, I shot it, and it was one of the things where it shot, and it was like those magical shots that are very rare, and the thing just dies. But when it died, it opened its mouth. So it looked like it was like bigger than it really was. So when I was bringing it up, I had this huge face in my face, and I had the same like adrenaline at the surface. I was like, it was a nice fish for sure, but I've shot other ones like that and didn't have half of like the not anxiety, but just the amp. It's funny how this can hit you. I
love that feeling,
even after all these years.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's definitely still the. That's what wahoo or ono, like that is like synonymous with that hunt. Every guy out here in Hawaii who's started hunting onos or saw one, got into it, it's the most addicting probably style of hunting. It's more hunter style where you just sit out in deep water and just wait, blue water style. But in Hawaii we can do it from shore, and that's the one that as soon as you talk about that, I'm like, it's hard for me to get that feeling now. It's really hard, and you still can get it, and I still do get it. And I get it every time I run into onos.
Really?
Yeah.
That's the fish.
It's nuts. I've only seen one in the last almost 2 years now. Yeah. So that's really a bad streak, as we talked about in the water. But it's nevertheless, I mean, it'll come again where we'll start seeing them more and more. But it comes and goes. But I mean, you'll be out there waiting, 5 days straight. You know they're coming in sooner or later. Right time of year and the right tides and stuff. Yeah. And then finally just like 12 bullets, averaging 40 pounds each, just come in and look at you and start going around you. And
you got about a minute to do something.
Yeah. My breath hold, I am dying for air at 20 seconds underwater. Dying for air because my heart is
just
racing.
Pounding.
Yeah, and I got to get up. I was just like I'm gonna run out of air, which is and that's the addiction.
Yeah, indeed.
The meat is great. The fight is fun.
Yeah.
But it's the hunt.
Yeah, the anticipation and actually seeing it. That right there. If you could bottle that up. Yeah. And just have a little swig now and then when you're feeling down, life would be great, Yeah. But then too, as a kid, so you mentioned like you grew up here in the water, immersed. And now here we are, fast forward, same spot, but you run into business, but you ejected. You went to Arizona State, right? So how was that as a Maui kid who going to Arizona, landlocked, totally different everything?
Right.
What was that experience for you?
Well, for me, it was awesome. It was exactly what I was looking for. I didn't know it. I didn't know what I was looking for, but I thought maybe I would be on the snowboard team and the paintball club. That was my two things. I'm like, I'll probably do those. My two of my favorite things to do. I don't get to snowboard out here. That was my plan. They expect kids to be able to know what they want to be when they grow up and make these huge decisions. I thought you could be like a lawyer, a doctor, a firefighter. I thought, there was like 8 options, And so, I was kind of a dumb kid, but with not the best grades, but I wasn't that dumb. I got a decent SAT score and went off to Arizona State, and I knew I wanted to do something different for a while. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I got an engineering, good math brain, so I got pursued engineering. But I knew I didn't want to be an engineer. It took me 2 years in college to realize that, so that put me back a little bit. Ended up spending 5.5 years in Arizona State. Met my wife out there. Had a massive group of friends through a club I was in, and basically ironically did a lot of paintball and a lot of snowboarding through that club. It was a faith-based club. So we kind of just did, it was huge, and we just did a lot of different things with a lot of different people.
Cool.
And so with that, I would say my whole time in Arizona was about the people. It was, I had 250 names on my phone that I felt like I could call and it wouldn't be weird. It would have been just like, oh yeah, another friend, call another friend. It was kind of over the top. And that was just my whole experience. I ended up switching to math education. An education degree wasn't hard to get. The classes were easy. And so I basically kind of cruise mode school-wise, and I just did a lot of social activities. We'd rent out entire ice skating rinks for big social events, and went overseas to other countries with dozens of people at a time doing teacher swap things.
Cool.
China and whatnot.
Wow.
So that's just a very weird, unique. I was the president of the club, and my wife was the vice president for a time. It was just like we were very involved in it. It's kind of my point. And so Arizona to me was the people. If I had to do it again, I would have incorporated some duck hunting into it. I did that right before I left, and I realized, whoa, I missed out.
Oh yeah, cool.
That was cool.
Yeah.
But
got your hunting fix.
Yeah. I fished a ton. I did bass fishing, cat fishing. Between classes, I actually kept my poles in the car, and I'd pick up chicken liver. And I had like a 2-hour break. Pick up chicken liver at the at Fry's. And I would head over to the urban lake and just look for wait for catfish. So, I'd have, there's like a lot of Hispanic, African-American people there, and they would come up to me like, you only a white boy catfishing with us out here, I was like, that's what we do in Maui. Is basically catfishing style. It's how we catch our jackfish.
Yeah.
So
you had to have your water fix. It wasn't the turquoise blue Napili coast, but it was water, and you were still going after some game.
So it was it's all about the environment. That's what I encourage people about college is it's the environment you put yourself in, intellectualism that goes on there, just the care and all the social changes typically come from that age demographic. The early 20s, the zealous, young people who want to make a change and are thinking. They're just thinking, and they have time, and they have, they got their student loans or whatever to give them time, and they're having fun, but they're just they're able to, it's like, putting a whole group of thinkers together, and how are we going to change the world? And that's college.
That's cool.
And so I was really happy. Forget the classes, forget all that stuff. At least from my experience, being around that group of people for 5.5 years shaped both my wife and myself.
Right. Yeah. Solid.
Entirely. And so I don't think I would have been able to start the business and have been able to perform it well without that experience.
Yeah. That's great, man. So you finished there, came back. How did you then start thinking about doing what you're doing today?
Right. I got a degree in math education. I taught math for a year. That sucked. Eighth graders. They were awesome. I really liked being in the school system, loved working with the kids. Effectively the 9 to 5. It wasn't 9 to 5, but it was the same idea. 5 days a week, looking out the window at the water. It's just not for me. I wish it were, in a sense. It's just idea of like, it's so cool to be able to be involved in these kids' life. I try to be through the youth group out here, and I know a lot of the kids, but it'll never beat that, Mr. Twitchell that they'd call me when I'd go to town functions and stuff, and to know 200 kids,
cool.
like, it was special. Besides that, didn't like the job, and so I knew I wanted to do what I love for a living, and so went for it. Spearfishing didn't exist as a tour very much in Hawaii. It's too hard in Hawaii. Big Island guy does Blue Water Hunters out there, and he does a great job from what I hear, and I refer people to him for blue water hunting. But besides that, there wasn't much options. There's another company on Maui, and it's people will take you out, shoot some little surgeonfish, and call it a day. I mean, they're going to teach you some stuff for sure. They're going to teach you how to use the guns. They're going to teach you how to get comp. They're going to kill some little fish because that's what the tourists want to see.
Yeah.
They want to get the experience of shooting a fish, and so it's just too easy to make money doing that. But it's not sustainable at a larger scale. One company doing it, fine. What happens when everybody likes it?
Yeah.
And now the company grows. Now there's 2 or 3 or 4. Well, now there is more. And now you got people shooting all these little surgeonfish. Like, that's not going to last. It shouldn't last. So when we started, we did. That company, the owner, not from here, the one who was more popular and started before us. So I guess it didn't bother him so much. To me, it wasn't an option. I could not shoot surgeonfish, pilanis, and parrotfish and goatfish.
Yeah.
Could not shoot those things on my tours. But just being that math brain, it's got to make sense in the long run. So if everyone only targeted Ta'ape, To'au, and Roi, which are considered invasive by the local fishermen, not considered invasive by the state yet. They haven't done the science to prove them invasive specifically. They're non-native, they're introduced, and they reproduce quickly. It's extremely sustainable. We will not be able to get rid of all of them no matter how much we get beginners to try to shoot at them. So the sustainability, to me, is the key word there. We can always do this. Our grandchildren can do this. As long as you're doing things that can be reproduced over and over and over, that's sustainability.
Yeah,
so
cool.
That's the heart behind it. I don't know if we're saving the planet or anything, but we're doing something that raises awareness to fishing pressures and the problem of overpopulation and then development and all these different things we can talk about with our customers. Gives us an opportunity to do that. They can participate in that dream of maybe shooting a fish.
Yeah.
They can learn a ton of freediving, which is kind of funny how that word got into this whole thing, which is an interesting story. And through that, even though our customers do not shoot as many fish, nearly as much as all the surgeonfish they would have shot, the company went, in 2012 I started it, started introducing freediving into the tour, it went from, me and trying to hustle some trips to now this year, probably going to break 1,500 customers.
Yeah, amazing.
It's a job for 4 full-time people and on call when it gets crazy. And we got 2 wrap trucks that are running trips sometimes, hustling multiple trips a day. And meanwhile, the reefs are not being negatively affected by it at all.
Yeah, as I was mentioning earlier, just kind of scoping you out a little bit before talking today, looking at like Yelp and just other random stuff. Actually, for my own self, like who's spearfishing on Maui, because I'm here, visiting and stuff. And people seem really excited about shooting the invasive thing, because people want to help protect. They have no idea what to do. At all. They could pick up trash and and that's cool. But like, not only are they getting the adventure of spearfishing, which is like other level for a lot of people who never even maybe go to the ocean that often, get underneath it, and then actually participate in helping it in their mind. And they killed invasive fish. That might mean that these other ones, the natives, are gonna maybe flourish there or whatever. But I like the angle of it, because people, they want to do something. And you're giving them a chance to do something and have an adventure.
I do hear it a lot, and I don't know how much of this is, you never know when what people say, how'd you hear about us? Or what do you think about this? You never know exactly what really happened. Did they really just notice the truck wrap and then went online and then they told me they saw it online? You never know. Same way with this. They tell me, hey, I really, that's what sold me on the trip was this invasive. But I hear that all the time, And so if that's just them being nice, or if that's really the truth, either way, I'll take it.
It works out.
If you like that we're going for invasives, I'm glad. My main concern is that my guides and me get to do what we love for a living and stay pono. Pono is to do what is right, right? So righteousness. So we get to stay pono and get to do what we love for a living.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's killer.
That's the goal.
That's what
Pay our bills.
everybody's trying to get towards in life, and
that's
it's
the
pretty
dream.
hard to find. Yeah, that's killer. So part of it too, as you mentioned, is the freediving aspect. Is not just you just don't pull a truck up, load a bunch of people, and give them gear and go.
Correct.
You're also helping them understand how to be safe in the water, holding a breath, going under. But you, to get to that point, had to also.
Yeah.
You were probably raw in the water because you just grew up that way. But at some point,
Right.
you formally educated yourself, so you can now educate others. What was that path?
Yeah, there's some interesting stuff. Basically, ironically, the whole path started because I just wanted to figure out how people could have a good time in the water without shooting a fish. It's like, you might not shoot a fish, but how do you leave here not pissed off because you didn't shoot a fish? So, well, if I teach them proper freediving instruction, they always get something.
They get something from their money.
It's simple as that. That was my mentality.
Yeah.
Little did I know, once I took a course, it would change everything. I got a hold of Kurt Chambers, 2010 American Freedive champion. At the time, he was American Freedive champion. He's the guy. Got a hold of him, friend of a friend. Hey, Kurt lives on the Big Island. Can you do a freedive class out here? And I figured I would learn the proper safety, and I would tell my friends, my guides, my customers every day, and it would just be a notch on my resume. I don't know what would come from it, but learning formal freedive safety seemed like a good idea for running a spearfishing business. So I went there for the safety aspect more than anything. Was pushing my breath hold, did a 3.5 minute breath hold before going to the class. And I was like, wow, 3.5 minutes, like never held my breath that long before. I show up to the 4-day course with Kurt. He does Maui's first deep dive course. I show up to the course here, he flew out here for it. And 8 of us spearfishermen. I was the least known. I knew all those other guys, seen some of them in magazines, and big Instagram stuff, and I was like, oh, cool, I'm part of this group. And nevertheless, Kurt was expecting a lot out of me because of my past of doing it my whole life. Even these guys who were known didn't quite do it as much as I did growing up. I just wasn't that good. I just did it a lot. And so first day of the course, we learned the static breath hold. We learned a lot of the basics, the stuff I teach every day now. And after the second day of the course, we go for our longest breath hold, and I broke 6 minutes. Almost 6.5 minutes. My first try at a new max breath hold with formal freedive instruction.
Crazy.
And that was Kurt's longest breath hold in the class. He says he's had probably maybe 3 guys break 6 minutes in his intro class. Maybe it's a little more than that now. Maybe. You don't see that very often, and I was stoked. I couldn't believe it. Even underwater, I'm just like giggling. I'm like, wow, it's been 5.5 minutes. I still feel good.
Really?
I came up feeling good. Lips were pink, which means I could have kept going some more. I've never pushed my breath hold to find out. Kurt's kind of back in the day was like, yeah, you should go for the record. And I really was, stoked. But I don't know. I don't know if that's my passion to the training, the dedicated training for the max depth, for the max time. I don't know if I clearly haven't so far had the passion to pursue that. Local spearfishermen love getting food for the table, hanging out with friends and fishing. And I love the freedive aspect, but the record aspect, I don't know. It might not be for me.
Yeah.
I do love the idea that you don't have to be diving hundreds of feet to get into freediving. So people can dive 30, 40, 50, 60 feet, hang out with turtles, swim under an archway, do it safely, and that can be freediving.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be
it's true.
William Trubridge, 400 feet down
deep,
type of stuff, as amazing as that is. And that's the world of freediving. When people think freediving, they think blackouts, serious depth, scary. It's if we can change that and have it just be, no, this is just a fun, normal, it's extreme sport, but it's a fun, normal sport that everybody can participate in. It's just, why not? It's a great sport, great for you, and of course, sustainable.
Yeah.
So anyways, I learned that stuff. The second time Kurt comes out, he comes out for the guys who were maxing out depth on that intro course, which was a level 2 intro course because everybody was experienced. He comes back for an advanced course, or expert one, and see how deep we can get you in 3 days, which is not how you're supposed to freedive, but Kurt's a little wild, especially back then. So he's like, let's go for it, Kurt's not afraid of that kind of stuff. He can handle a blackout or two. And so we went for it, and I was able to hit 60 meters,
Wow. Nice.
Which is 196. I went a couple feet past that, and at the end of those 3 days, and so I never had any goals on going about 200 feet down. It was never the hope, never the goal, but you went 180, then you're like, well, I can go 190, and go 200, hit
Yeah.
that mark, you know. And so that's how the depth came. And then did some freedive tournaments from there with Kurt. He blacked out on one of his own freedive tournaments, which disqualified him on that dive, which allowed me to then catch up in points. So I tied him for first place on an official tournament.
Like, thanks, Kurt.
Which was my claim to fame, yeah. And I attempted to pursue depth just because I knew I could.
Yeah.
But that's not enough. You have to have more than just knowing that you can do it. You have to really have a passion and love for the sport of deep, diving competitively.
Yeah, you got to want it.
You got to really want it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I want it yet.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll change, but I got to be okay with that. And that's something I'd struggled with more in the past.
Yeah.
I am okay with that now more than I was.
Yeah.
But I keep to that. Try to keep it under 200.
Yeah.
I feel very comfortable down to those depths.
Yep.
160, 165 before the chest flexibility, and that would be a whole lesson we'd have to get into. But,
That's a totally different.
that's a long
level,
story.
Yeah.
But chest flexibility becomes an issue. You can tear your lungs because of pressure and whatnot. At 130 or so, your lungs become smaller. It depends on the person and whatnot, but your lungs can become smaller than what you can physically make them on land.
Yeah.
And so basically your lungs are being under more pressure than they're used to, and causing tears and whatnot.
Gnarly stuff.
It's called a lung squeeze. It's one article online is freediving's most dirty little secret.
Yeah.
And it's a great article. It's just on the lung squeeze. Blackouts aren't a fear for freedivers, really.
Yeah.
In any safe environment, it's really not a big fear. It's the lung squeeze that we're watching out for.
Right.
And so that takes daily stretching and whatnot if you want to get past and special negative pressure type diving and stuff. And that's where the daily routine and discipline and I want to pursue this sport comes in.
Yeah.
And it's not practical for what I do.
Yeah, totally. But day to day, like even today we were diving and like you had no problem just dipping down and touching 85 feet.
Yeah.
Looking for a fish, spending, probably a minute or more down there after the dive, to kick down and back up. So that comfort level is just strong for you.
I can do 4 minute pretty comfortably. I can do a 4 minute dive, underwater. And so when you spearfish, you want to keep your dives conservative. So I kept my dives today to 2 to 2.5 minutes. Relatively shallow diving for what I do with my guides and whatnot. For me, our tours never go that deep, but I would say 90 to 100 is probably the go-to depth for my standard.
Right.
Like I'm going to pursue fish. Down to 130.
And that opens up, like as we were chatting after we dove, sitting on the rocks, talking a little bit, is that extra depth kind of opens up a new world of fish. We were talking about, is this, this spot here, it's accessible, you can park, does it get hammered by other spear fishermen in their boats, etc. And as you were mentioning, it's like, yeah, kind of, but really it's like once you can get past that 80 down to 100-ish feet, a lot of guys can't.
Yeah.
I'm thinking in Santa Cruz, maybe there's a couple, but nobody dives there. But so for you, that opens up another world of game. You can get down there, and so that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, it's just, you put the time in and you get the results, and that's the thing, is the learning curve is huge in spearfishing. You got to love the hunt, you got to love not getting anything and still doing it all the time. I'd say honestly past 65 you're going to start seeing something different, whereas anything shallower than that, you just got to know that you don't expect to be getting big uluas, don't expect to get big ukas.
Yeah, well, it's funny because when I was, you were so nice to me, just kind of randomly reaching out, here's when I'm coming out, and while I was mostly focused on having this opportunity to chat with you, I was like, hey, what's going on? And I was like, you had a phone call from somebody who's coming to Maui, wants some intel, because when you come to a place, whether you know how to dive or not, like I'm like, geez, maybe I can just short dive and get a big fish, and that's. Yeah, maybe, but you got to be able to dive, and it's just, you were so helpful, just like, well, try this and do that, and I heard you on the phone, like, because you don't really know what's underwater and what you got to do to get there until you're actually there.
Until you're there.
I was like,
there's no way to know.
Yeah, I'm like,
and you're, I'm not trying to build you up, but I take a lot of guys out, and you're definitely, you know what you're doing out there. You're definitely a water guy. It's just the way you move, the way you go underwater, being comfortable. It's like you're not gonna normally dive 30, 40, and then all of a sudden go look in caves at 65. Like you shouldn't. You're supposed to take it easy. But that doesn't mean it's not a numbers thing. It's not like a guy who goes 70 is more comfortable than a guy who goes 30. That's nothing to do with it. If you practice going to 70, then you're going to go to 70.
Right.
That's just how that works. Same thing even down to deeper depths, down to 300. Even the world record holders. I bet you the world record holder freedivers aren't the best watermen.
Right,
they're great watermen,
yeah,
but they're good at what they do.
Yeah, that's right.
That's all they train.
Different. Yeah,
it's just different.
Yeah,
it's different.
It's very true.
We want to relate. We want to compare ourselves all the time, and especially with Instagram, especially with all the social media. No matter how much, I feel like we always say it all the time about what life's about and not comparing yourself and all these things. And I think we say it a lot because that's what we're doing, not just what other people are doing.
Without realizing it, yeah.
We got to say it because we're the ones doing it.
Yeah.
I often say stuff. I'm like, I give kids advice because I fail at it.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm giving you the advice. I try not to compare myself and try not to be, do all these things, but man, it is so tempting. I feel like you have to keep reminding yourself. You have to keep saying it because that is the natural cultural, the natural way of things is to try to say, oh, I'm a better waterman in this case, or a better, look better at this, do better at this, I score more, I'm better at, I travel, I got my stuff together or whatever. It's just like, just know what you do.
Yeah.
I have to be okay with not potentially never breaking any freedive records.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I can. I know I can. I've got advantages over even, I bet you, some of the world record holders now. But if that's not me, that's okay.
Yeah.
I don't, and even the fact that I can isn't something to brag about. It's just like, it's not like I didn't choose to have my dad be my dad. I didn't choose where I was born or anything. We're all given what we're given. It's all just as valuable as somebody else. But just try to know yourself well, learn about yourself and don't feel like you need to perform, but what makes you, impressed, humbled, happy, whatever. I think we're looking for a lot more than happiness. I don't think people are looking for happiness.
Yeah, I know.
think they're looking for something better than that.
Some kind of like validation from others. But it's interesting because what just popped in my head is I'm reading this book. Actually, he's got a bunch of different books. His name is Carlos Eyles, Eyles. He's from California. He was like, one of the early kind of second generation spear guys, like in the 60s. There's like the first, they call them the Godfathers or something, like in the 30s, and then World War II came and stopped the whole thing, but they didn't even have masks.
Right.
They found them from the Japanese pearl divers. It's insane. You'd love it. I'll send you the book. It's really cool. But looking back to those guys back in the day, they didn't need validation. No. They were going down with they were talking about how they're trying to make their own masks and going down just because it was rad to them. Now it's rad what we're doing, but there is that aspect now. People want to share and show, whereas I love the old school stuff where it's like, there's no glory. They didn't want any glory. Yeah. They were just doing it. I love that simplicity of that time. Yeah. But for what you do, you have a business and you need to be out there. Part of your brand is you. Yeah. So you have to be out there. And same with me. Like I have to share the things I'm doing either by myself, with my friends, and my kids, part of the brand, and that's kind of the reality.
Interesting dichotomy there. And I use that as an excuse. Oh yeah, it's just my business, because I'm proud to not be that online. The classic outdoorsman who's like, oh, I don't know that stuff. I don't know how to even work a computer. But yes, it helps with branding, and certain things are. I probably could get away with not even doing Instagram, but it helps and it doesn't hurt. Yeah. And so here I am on Instagram doing posting for my business, and I'm terrible at it. Yeah. My posts are just the classic, like they look like somebody who likes to fish once a week and shows their fish off. That's all mine are, holding dead fish up. But I look at other, and that's where the comparing comes in. I look at other guys who've got these epic underwater housing, they're with whales upside down, and beautiful, girls and guys, and this, big catamarans and all this stuff, and I'm like, and then I get like, oh, am I second class and I'm not able to do that stuff? And then I think about doing that stuff, like we were talking about guys who, who travel and work on the, the boats and spearfish all over the world. I'm like, do I even want to do that? Like, I don't even want to do that. Like, I really don't. If I did, I should pursue it. But I'm like, I'd rather just hang out with my friends here, surf the local spots, hang out with my wife and the kids here, and just do, that's my style.
Yeah.
Just know yourself.
Right, yeah.
And don't try to be somebody else.
That's key.
It's so cliche, but it's just like, when you actually see it's real, It's actually a thing.
Yeah. Well, you just had, I saw it, speaking of Instagram, which again, and I bring this up on the podcast repeatedly because I spend a lot of time on it because I'm looking what's going on. Just trying to, that's how I connected with you and others. Like I'm always looking at stuff, and so you kind of get to know somebody. And as we've been talking the last few weeks, like, what's Bobby up to? And like, so you just had a birthday. So happy belated birthday.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that again back to Instagram. You went out camping, got some fish, and it sounds like you had a run-in with, a tiger shark out there?
Yeah. Well, actually, okay. So the weekend, real quick, the weekend was very interesting, very cool. Lanai hunting is gotten very popular. Joe Rogan is a lanai hunter. For example, he's talked about it on the Joe Rogan Experience even. And there's a mouflon sheep and axis deer. This time I decided to fish instead. I rented the hunting trucks. They thought I was going to go hunting axis deer and mouflon, but instead I'm going for fish. And instead of taking a boat to Lanai, we just rented a truck. Went out there. I don't advise a bunch of people doing this at all, or anyone doing this. It's first of all, it's the wild. There's potentially no cell phone service. There are huge animals out there, and to be honest, I know a lot of the locals and whatnot. So it's not necessarily a repeatable thing by everybody. But I got the I've done it many times. Actually, it all comes together because I used to work on a boat trip for 3 years that actually went to remote parts of Lanai, so I actually know the reef.
Yeah, good.
So it all came together that I'm like, wow, I've really got the setup to be able to pull something like this off. So here we are in the boondocks camping, hours away from, it's hour and a half away if you off-road fast to the nearest building of any kind.
Yeah. Out there.
It's just out there, and you hope you get cell phone service in case somebody gets gnarly cut. You could call Coast Guard or something, but no guarantees. Swim out. I shot. I ended up shooting about 70 pounds worth of fish, which is as much as I would have wanted. We had 5 of us guys. I just shot all the fish for eating, and then all the guys cleaned up invasives. So we shot about 25 invasive fish. And got a few food fish. So we made ceviche at the place.
Love it.
The whole, the dream, the stuff you would like, what if we went camping and did this? Well, we did that.
Right.
Killer. And we were out there, and one of my, some beginner guys and then a couple advanced guys, and I had my beginner guy with me, and I was just watching my back. He's a good water guy. He knows how to safety me, but he doesn't know how to go deep. But he can catch me, in the top 50 feet if a blackout happened. And he comes up, or I come up, and I have a nice moo, a really prized fish, about 7 pounds or so, and I put it on the stringer, and he's like, "Oh, shark!" I look down, there's a little gray reef shark, and then I'm like, "Is that the only one?" He's looking all around. I'm like, "Is that the only one?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's the only one." I was like, "Okay," because we had drifted out into like 130 feet of water, couldn't see the bottom, way far from the shore. I was like, "This would be the worst time to see a tiger." I literally think that. I look down, and this big old tiger starts coming out of the dark up towards us.
Right as you think it.
Damn it. Right as I thought about it. And I attached the fish to the float. The shark's coming up. I just got my spear back in the gun, was redoing the gun, got the line all settled as the shark got probably about 30 feet away, headed perfectly at us. Thankfully, the thing was actually pretty skittish, and I looked big, pointed the gun, kind of moved towards it a little bit. And, just if there was no fish around, it would be actually almost like a swim with a tiger situation. But we had big bleeding fish. Yeah. You never know.
Yeah, he might just snap and just be like, I'm hungry now.
Yeah, you don't want them to confuse the fish and you, that's for sure. Yeah. But anyways, no, it was all right. I told my buddy, just stay calm, and I tried to, really keep it as simple. It wasn't much. We came in, and he didn't really pursue us. Now, I think maybe a good ending, one of the ending things we could do, I do have a really good tiger shark story, speaking of tiger sharks.
Lay it down, please. Okay. Yeah.
So this one is a little different. This one is the one you don't want to have happen. Everyone survived. I was at S-Turns, which was at the time this was in 2010. It was at the time it was the last place a guy had died from a tiger shark, an acquaintance of mine, and basically it's a known spot. Muddy, junk day to go. It had been raining 3 days earlier, but the mud never cleared up. But outside of the mud was crystal clear. And so me and my buddy Joey, we see the clear water out there. I want to go spearfish in the clear water. So we just kind of rush over the shallow part of the reef off to the side, and we get out there. We spearfish for 3 hours, crystal clear water. Didn't get much. We had 2 lobsters on the buoy, and we start swimming in through S-turns to get back to shore. We should have went back in over the really shallow spot that we got out at, but we decided to go straight in, which was right across S-turns itself. Only 12 feet deep or so. It's not a deep place. And we're swimming along and looking left, looking right, and some premonition or whatever, I look behind me at the right time, and this shadow comes out of the murk, about 8 feet of visibility. So I'd say the nose was probably 8 feet away when I first saw it. And so I have my wooden gun with me, that same JBL that I shot my first fish with, big fish, and I turn around and I can't point the gun at the shark at this point. I figured it was a reef shark or something, but I still like, hey, shark in murky water. So I spin around. It's kind of hard to describe. I couldn't point the gun at the shark because it was too close and it was coming at me. So to spin around fast, I had to pull the gun towards my chest like a fireman's pole. If you were to slide down it and spin around like a pole. And so the tip of my gun is out of the water, just barely, and I'm holding it in front of me like a shield. And in the time it took me to turn around like that, this full-grown tiger, kind of hard to tell how long it was because I could only see segments of it at a time. Judging by the fact that it was as fat as a cow, I would say it was probably 13 to 15 feet, probably a 13-footer, I would say. Just really fat. And all I saw was the face at this moment. It was coming sideways across, so I could see one eye and one set of gills, and the mouth was going from my right to my left. And there's a moment of just, your just heart sinks.
Pucker,
it's all fast. It's all just, okay, there's a huge shark right in front of me. And then it arched its whole body, opened its mouth as wide as it could to try to just eat me from the top down. And I scream and I hold my gun out in front of me outwards, and like a shield again. Its upper lip hits the gun by my forehead. His lower lip hits the gun down by my belly button.
What?
And my fingers are technically in its mouth because my fingers are holding the gun out in front of me. All I see is white flesh mouth. I can't see around the face. I can only see white flesh in front of me.
That's
gnarly. And
so your gun was propping its mouth open.
No, my gun's 5 feet long, 5 feet tall in this moment.
It's just
so it's like a shark cage.
It was your shield.
It's just like a shark cage.
Wow,
but only one bar. So imagine a shark hitting a shark cage with its mouth open.
Dead center on a bar.
On a single bar right in your face. That's exactly what it was like. And too much adrenaline to know how much it pushed me or not. I couldn't tell, like in the moment, if it hit me and pushed, or if it just kind of felt. I couldn't get my mouth around anything. Either way, mouth wide open. Didn't know they could open their mouths that wide, and saw a little throat hole. I'm like, how am I supposed to fit down that thing?
Oh my god!
And
that's so heavy.
So gnarly. Turns its head, closes its mouth. Didn't finish the bite. Probably would have taken my fingers, I'd assume. If it did, but it didn't chomp down. It just couldn't get a bite. So instead, it just kind of turned its head back to normal position, closed its mouth, and kept swimming by. And it looked like a train going by me.
Just kept going.
It was my first tiger I ever seen at the time, and I just saw stripe about a foot from my face. Just stripe. Like, oh, okay, that's what a tiger shark looks like. And its tail was 4 feet tall. Went right towards Joey. I stick my head up, scream, Joey, look down, screaming bloody murder. That's all I said was Joey, look down, but he knew exactly what I meant because I was bloody murder, like Luke was today with the boat. Probably worse. And so he didn't see it. Thankfully, the shark must have turned before it got to Joey. We met up back to back and swam the rest of the way in.
Dude,
so
that's so heavy.
Yeah.
I got the newspaper for that one. Heavy, man. I love that.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to do another. If you're down, I know. I mean, think about this. But if you have, I could sit here and talk about those stories. If you have other ones to share.
Don't know if I'm gonna be able to beat that one.
Yeah, that's epic though, dude.
But that's a good intro one. I got some stories.
No, man. But yeah, Bob, this is awesome, dude. And it's crazy how fast an hour goes. But a couple of things. One is, thank you for the hospitality of having me. Thank you for let me tag along in the dive today. It was insane.
My pleasure.
And thank you for showing me that your ninja boat deflection move. I'm gonna keep remember that one for next time it happens to me, man. But
might as well go underwater. They can't hit you there.
But dude, best of luck with the business and everything you have going here, man. And I appreciate your perspective on everything. So thank you for sharing with us, dude.
Yeah. Well, we'll hopefully meet up again.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.